Good morning. As you can tell from the beautiful scenery, we are in Scotland. No, we're not in Scotland. This week, we've got something a bit different for you, because this week we are on an epic adventure. We have left Scotland behind, we have left the UK behind, and we are on the Adriatic Sea, which is over here between Italy and Croatia, and Dubrovnik is down here.
Where are you going? You're going on your holidays.
Woo woo!
Aww.
You're a bit nervous last time, this is a better.
And with De Niro off on his holidays, it was time for us to get off on ours. So we jumped in Mabel and headed to the parking ride at Dunfermline. Unfortunately, what we hadn't done was check for stowaways. Say hello to Bob.
You were saying all the time, dog, what are you doing? I said, the dog's not there. And then who are you? What's your name? You're a naughty dog-a-log, aren't you? Would you want to come on holiday with us? It's as calm as they come. You are funny.
Oh dear, that's it'll be a funny story when we're sitting with a drink in our hands. Just now it's a bit stressful because we've got to get back to the kennels, drop the wee dog off, make sure we don't have any other dogs, and then get back to Dunfermline again. Hey little dude, you're not coming with us. We're going to Croatia and you're going back home. You little stowaway. Oh, here comes mummy. You're in trouble now for running away. Or we're in trouble for stealing you, one of the two. Yeah, so that's a hilarious start to that then. So we've dropped Bob back off with Morven, and now we are heading back to Holbeath Interchange to get the bus to the airport again. And we have double checked, there are no more stowaways in the back of the van. And the next stop was the transport interchange. Now, given the price of parking at the airport, this is a much better way to do it, because park and ride, it's free to park and then quite expensive for the bus. But still much cheaper than parking at the airport. I'm not used to enjoying the scenery while someone else does the driving. I could get used to this. And after all the panic about catching the flight after dropping Bob off, it didn't matter because predictably it was delayed. Very delayed, which gives you hours to walk round the shops. Yay, we love shopping, we do. And after standing in who knows how many queues, this is the last one because we've been through passport control and over there is our aeroplane. That is our trusted chariot that is going to get us to Dubrovnik. Oh, go on then. What's one more queue between friends?
We're on the plane at last.
At last.
At last.
Only about 3 hours late, but hey ho.
Yay.
So only marginally behind schedule, we were on our way. And look on the bright side, if it hadn't been for Bob, we would have had an extra 2 hours to spend at the airport. So thank you, wee chap. And finally, we made it. Never mind 3 hours of delays, this trip had been delayed by 3 years. We first booked this just before the pandemic, so finally we were here and we were going to make the most of it. It's very warm, which explains this, the ridiculous hat. Bex made me wear it. Yeah, the temperature's expected to hit about 40 degrees and there's all sort of risk to life and stay out in the sun and drink lots of water warnings here in Croatia. So I'm going for a walk. Mad dogs and Scottish people in ridiculous hats go out in the midday sun. Bex is much more sensible. She's staying on the balcony of the place that we're staying. So yeah, you've got the pleasure of my company and she's got the pleasure of sitting on the balcony drinking wine while I'm out doing all this work. The insects here are really weird because they'll all be making an awful lot of noise, and I mean an awful lot of noise. And then that lot will go quiet and the next lot down will start making a noise. It is most bizarre and they sound a bit like this. Noisy wee buggers. Dubrovnik doesn't sound very much like a shoestring destination, but using the joys of Airbnb and EasyJet, here we are. This is actually Bexy's birthday trip, only 3 years late because of COVID. And this is the reason I wanted to come to Dubrovnik. This massive fortress is the old city, which we are going to go now for a wee look around. It's not quite as pretty as Methil, but it's not bad. It's also, as you can see, the height of tourist season. They are everywhere. And yes, I do get the irony of us calling other people tourists. There is another wee bit of the fortress. I could show you all the walls, but they're 2 kilometres long and they go all the way around the city, and you can actually walk the whole way round, which guess what we're going to be doing next. And I'm definitely going to be getting Bex into one of those little 2-seat kayaks, whether she likes it or not. And if any of you are fans of Game of Thrones, this is also a Game of Thrones filming location. I know nothing about Game of Thrones, I don't think I've ever seen it, but we do follow tour guides around and learn things, so we'll show you a really cool Game of Thrones location. I assume it's really cool, I'm just guessing. We're in the queue now to get into the old city, which as you can see is just like Macduff Castle in Fife, just a wee bitty bigger. People are ignoring the warnings to not go out in the sun, and we're all out in the sun, but we've paid money to be here, we are not missing it now. There is so much to see here. We're not quite sure of the touristy setup, if you've got to buy a ticket or what. We have no idea, but we'll find out. They are well set up for the heat here compared to back home, because they have these fountains that are running drinkable water all the time. So you can bring your water bottle and you can fill it from the fountain, and then you can try and read that, which is, I don't know, Latin or Croatian. I have no idea. You know, my foreign language skills are not great. So this is the main boulevard of the old city. Now, it wouldn't be Scotland on a shoestring if you didn't expect us to stop walking down the main boulevard and go and find a wee side street to explore, because there's too many people here, frankly. Yeah, a wee side street like this one, which looks a lot less interesting, but if you see the view up the front there, which is probably a bit too far away at the moment, we'll go and see what we can find. It's just going to be lots of pretty views, I think. So sorry, if you don't like pretty views of historic buildings, this is probably not the episode for you. And every little alleyway leads to another little alleyway. That's the main shopping alleyway that you might have seen in one of our reels of Dubrovnik by night. They sell some really strange things. We're still not sure why there are 2 rubber duck shops on that little street. All the buildings are just jammed in here. It's quite a small space, and there's an awful lot of people living here, and I just fell down that step, which was hilarious to the people sitting watching me. That guy should be paying attention and not just filming. But up there you see the old city going up the hill, and up the top there is the city walls that we spoke about a wee bitty earlier, and we're going to have a look at a wee bitty later. This is us back on the little shopping type street, the little boutique type street. It's really nice. This whole place is just amazing, but it is getting increasingly warm. I'm wondering if Bex had the right idea staying back in our accommodation. Lots of Game of Thrones references everywhere you look for some reason, and lots of really cool wee shops, to be honest. If you want to buy a Croatia souvenir, this is a place to come. Croatia, obviously. There's another nice church. You do get kind of at the point where you're churched out. It's like, oh, there's another nice church, there's another nice church. It's all very, very nice churches. So we're going to keep going down this road, because we know at the end of this track is the seaside. They've got one of my favourite things to see when you're on holiday. It's the person at the front with the thing held up, sort of follow me, and just a trail of really bored people following them. Get away from the beaten trail, walk about on your own and do your exploring. You do not need a tour guide somewhere like this, you just use your eyes. Bex is really missing out. She loves a wee market, and that is a nice wee market, but we are going down here to the sea. An excellent use for all that leftover bread. The pigeons are having a nice day out. This is the end of that shopping street, and it's not exactly very ugly, is it? There's a really cool dome over there, and then that in front of us, which is another museum. And then down this way, which is, you guessed it, another museum. For all you gargoyle fans, that is not a very ugly gargoyle, but it is a gargoyle nonetheless, I reckon, because it's got a water spout inside it. So yeah, we're calling that a gargoyle just to keep you guys in the gargoyle loop. The gargoyle building has an open door. No idea what this is. Okay, that's not a bad wee view, is it? Oops, I didn't notice that one until we were on the way out, but hey-ho, and a pity about that one. I hope he's enjoying his holidays. The bell up there just struck 1, and I thought, oh, it's going to strike another 8 or 9 times. It didn't, it did 1. It does 1 every hour, I guess. If I got one of those little cards that you hold up, I wonder how many people would be following me by the time I'd walked the length of that street. You could like fake other people's cards and then steal their punters. We came in the old city at one end, and now we're going to exit it at the other end. There are so many of the beautiful people here wafting about in all their Versace finery, like young men in their tailored outfits, and young ladies in their wafty dresses. And then there's me in a pair of running shorts, a running t-shirt and a ridiculous hat. I often find myself wondering what things are, and now I'm wondering why there's 2 big stone loops stuck into the wall of that building facing the water. I think we'll do what I've seen on other YouTube channels. We'll have a thing, put your answer in the comments, wrong answers only. So whatever you think those aren't for, please let us know, and the funniest one wins, well, nothing. Oh, it's Viking Sea Party number 18 are out for their lookabout. Look, none of them look like they're actually enjoying it. They all look so bored, and there's always the really cool ones at the back that don't actually want to be there but have been brought by the mums and dads. More gratuitous shots of the city walls, which go all the way around this little harbour, and it's there it is, the harbour there, in case you don't believe me, and there is the town built on the other side of the bay. It's really smart the way those houses all cling to the hillside. And when we came in from the airport airport late at night, pitch black. That road up the top there is actually the main road into the place, so it's quite steep. And up there, there's a cable car. Guess where we're going one day? Yeah, you guessed it. We're going to go up in the cable car and you guys are coming with us. Viking C17. This is just some gratuitous shots of boats to make you all dead jealous. If it's cold or miserable where you are, it's not cold and miserable here. It is anything but. The Scotland on a shoestring health and safety policy says, should it get too hot, rather than risk sort of personal injury, you go and find a pub and have a couple of drinks. That's actually written in our health and safety policy when we risk assessed this trip. This is where I wish it had the waterproof battery cover for the GoPro. I could actually put it in there and see what we can see. I'm guessing we'd see lots of fish. There are so many of them under that boat. I'm going to say something stupid now. I wonder if they're sheltering from the sun. I told Bex I would charter us a nice boat for a day trip. I think we'll have that one down there because it's blue. There is another one of those big stone loops that are stuck into the wall. They go all the way through. They must have been for tying something to, one would imagine. We came down to this bit last night and we found out this must be the cool spot for all the local people because it was absolutely jumping. There was like music playing and drinks being served from that thing over there. It was just absolutely brilliant. What a great vibe. I don't know why Croatia is not more popular as a tourist destination, although there's lots of tourists here. They do seem to be mostly from Australia and America, from the ones that we've spoken to so far, but it's a beautiful, beautiful place, and it's only 3 hours from the UK. And as I say, if you do the shoestring way with EasyJet and Airbnb, it needn't be awfully expensive. And our wee accommodation is really nice with a massive balcony and a Bex who's probably sitting having a wine. And there is the view out onto the bay and the Adriatic Sea. That little island out there is really cool. There's lots of kayak hire places and canoe hire places. There's a group of canoeists there. And you won't be able to see it, but there's a group out there beside that island, just on the corner there. That is something that I am really, really determined to do before this holiday comes to an end. We are going to get Bex into one of those 2-seat kayaks and we're going to go out there and visit that island. Anyway, I'm gibbering. I promised you that I would show you the view of the old town from out here. This is something else. So there's the new bit. And there is the old town with fortresses and cannons and turrets and castles and everything you could possibly want if you are a 12-year-old boy or if you're me. A lot of the damage that was done to the city during the Croatian War of Independence was done by the Serbs and the Montenegrins from up there. Because once they got up there, they could set up mortars and they could just bombard the city indiscriminately. Yeah, it wasn't great for the people living in the city, but the Croatians, I think, are quite a hardy breed and basically said, no, we're not giving up, go away. The whole story of the Croatian War of Independence is actually really interesting, but we are, as I've said before, not really a history blog. Those buildings over there with the sort of yellowy, lighter coloured roofs, they're really interesting too. We're going to go there now for a wee look. There's a fascinating wee bit of history about them. The place we are staying is up on that hill somewhere, so as you can imagine, it's a nice walk down to the old city. It's not quite so much fun walking back. That is Viking Sea number 21. I've got no idea how many Viking Sea people there actually are, but there's quite a lot of them wandering about following people with those little signs. Yeah, it's just another amazing church, like all the other amazing churches. It is so cool. And there's our old friend, the gargoyles. No gargoyles at the top though, that's a bit disappointing. A lot of these statues get polished clean by people touching them. I wonder why they've been touching his nose. Makes him look a tiny bit like Groucho Marx. Well, I meant those fake sort of Groucho Marx sunglasses and nose things that you get. You knew what I meant. Over history, this place has stood off many, many attempts at invasion. Most recently by the Serbians, but it's still here and it's still looking amazing. A lot of damage was done during the Croatian War of Independence, but it's all been repaired. So there's lots of bits here that are quite new, but you would never know by looking at them. Shall we go and have a look inside another church? I think we shall. That is another really impressive organ. Stop sniggering at the back. And this is a really impressive wee church, which is presently undergoing some sort of a renovation with no heed to health and safety. Let's go out and back into the sunlight. I went into that church and a girl said, "Excuse me sir, can you take your hat off?" And I thought, why does it look silly? It's really odd. This is a proper city, it's people live here, there's houses and things, so some people are living in the middle of a massive tourist attraction. And as you can see, there are no cars either, so it must be an interesting lifestyle. I was speaking to a guy last night who was saying that his mother lived in the old city and never left. Now I don't know if that's just a bit of exaggeration for the tourists, but you can see how that would work. Everything you need is here. This is for you Game of of Thrones fans, and I know nothing about Game of Thrones. I only know this because I was earwigging a tour guide last night, but apparently there's a scene in Game of Thrones where Cersei is standing addressing a crowd, and she's standing up the top of that flight of stairs. So we're going to go up there and you can pretend to be Cersei or Cerise. I wasn't paying that much attention. Some woman in Game of Thrones. They are reenacting something from Game of Thrones. Sorry, I've got no idea what, but I'm sure some of you might. Oh, and this is another small, non-ostentatious and not very impressive church that we're going to go and have a wee look at. We're going to try to avoid standing on any of the pigeons who are also finding it a wee bitty warm. Up there is the people doing the walk around the city walls, but I'm probably not going to do that today because it is warm and getting a bit warmer. So I'm just going to wander about and explore the city with you good people. Get one step away from the sort of big touristy bit and you're in bits like this. This whole place is just incredible. I know I use incredible and pretty blah blah blah. I'm going to have to stop going to nice places, because if I stop going to nice places I won't have to call them incredible and pretty and all the other stuff that I keep calling them. And there's a pug that's clearly had enough. That wee pug's just lying on a drain because I'm guessing it's a bit colder. All these wee narrow alleyways with the houses on either side remind me very much of the old town of Edinburgh and the closes there. We're going to take you there one day soon. Another wee mysterious alleyway that probably goes somewhere else, I'm guessing. That was a stupid thing to say. Of course it goes somewhere else. Well, it goes back down to where we were just at. Is this the same place or is this somewhere? You're finding this out at the same time as I am. Yep, we're back where we started. We've just gone round in a big circle. So let's go up this way. Oh, and there's the local cool cats. Probably not quite so cool today. I don't know how I'm actually going to put this in the video because I'm walking about loving this, but it's probably not exactly exciting television. It's just alleyway after alleyway. Okay, so we've just been for a long walk and we're back at this church. We are going round literally in circles. Show you the same thing 4 times. It's not as good as showing you 4 different things once. Although some things are definitely worth going back for a second look. And this is the Cerise stairs again that are now a lot quieter because there's no tourists about. Well, at least apart from a few dozen that are standing on them. They probably know what Game of Thrones is though. I hope you're all keeping score because that is number 14 over there. It's amazing how many people you see walking about with GoPros talking to themselves these days. This YouTube thing, it could be something in it. It could be a big thing, I think. I wonder if anybody else is talking as much nonsense as we do though. I don't think so. Right, this is those yellow roofed buildings that we showed you from the other side of the bay. This is really, really interesting history. This is a Lazaretti. And Lazaretti was a quarantine place where it started about the 1300s. If you arrived in Dubrovnik by boat, you were put in quarantine for 40 days to make sure that you weren't carrying anything unpleasant. And they've got dormitories with little courtyards, and obviously they've got a guardhouse. And if you broke your quarantine, you were in big trouble. They were not keen on infectious diseases getting from here into the old city, which is just there. So this is just outside the gates of the old city. So it's all no entry, but that's what it looks like. There's a wee courtyard and you'd have your wee dormitory, somewhere to sleep, and then you'd have a nice view of the sea and the walls and the guards, which is all you would see for 40 days. Apparently the way the quarantine worked is there are 5 of these blocks and you started off at one end, and every 8 days you moved one further forward, which is good. It meant you knew you were getting closer to release, but it also meant if one person had something then you all got it because you're all in the same dormitory. I wonder if when the boats arrived that were quarantined, if they tied up sort of out there somewhere and then they didn't even touch dry land until they got through these gates and you could go into the town. It must have been a big problem for trade if you were going to be held up for 30 days though, but I suppose it's better than the plague racing through your tightly knit compact little town. That's pretty cool. That's a model of the old city of Dubrovnik. That is where we are over there. That is the isolation bit, well away from the city, and there you can see all the little alleyways and all the little roads. That's the main one and that's the shopping one, I guess, and then there's loads of houses and stuff up that hill that we've not been to yet because how many old Dubrovnik buildings do you want in one video? So yeah, I can't actually think of anything else to say without using all the words that I use far too much. So there's another wee view of the harbour from up outside the walls. Oh, I see Bexy's supplies for the week have been delivered. That should keep her going. I think we're starting to recognise a nice scene when we see it, like that one there. That is quite nice. That man up there looks like he's delivering a cake. I'm sure that's probably the city of Dubrovnik, but it does look a bit like a cake. I mentioned earlier the Croatian War for Independence. Well, this is what the Serbs and the Montenegrins did to Dubrovnik. That's the damage that was done. All the red bits were completely destroyed, black circles were direct hits, roof burnt was the little triangle. So you see, most of the city was actually fairly heavily bombarded for absolutely no tactical advantage in the end. So fair play to the Croatians for getting it all looking like it never happened. They've actually restored it back to the original condition. There's no sign of any sort of damage or any sort of that part of history. It's all just back to being a beautiful place to visit. We should be playing Viking Sea Tour Group Bingo, because there is number 12 to add to our wee collection. Right, we're going to go back now and find the fruit market and take Bex back some lovely fruit. In fact, there's a fruit market and a bakery, so we might get some bread as well, but now I can't find the fruit market. I think it's up here. Our penchant for getting lost is legendary. Thinking it might be down here, or it might not. Not really sure. I can get lost crossing the street. Cobblestones worn smooth by 2,000 years of people's feet. It's a lot of history here. We do like a wee bit of history, as you know. Oh, I spy Viking Tour number 15 over there. That's the queue to get into one of the museums. It's a bit busy today. We were on the wrong street. We weren't where we thought we were, but there it is there. So let's go and buy some fruit. Right, I'm going to put the camera away now and buy myself some fruit and see what Bex might fancy. What are those green things? I have no idea. Hiya, can I have 2 of these, please? Thank you very much, thank you. Once again, find myself grateful for the fact that in other countries everybody speaks English and we are too lazy to learn any other languages. We always come here and try to say please and thank you and all the useful sort of polite words, but people just look at you and know you're British and they all speak to you in English strange. No matter how hard you try to say it properly, you always sound like you're foreign. I'd like it on record that this is July and that is the Christmas shop. We are not going in there. We weren't joking. There are 2 of those duck shops on the street. Who buys lots of ducks when they go on holiday? What did you get yourself in Croatia? Oh, I got myself a Darth Vader duck. Now, I'm sure that amongst all the hats and postcards, we did pass a baker's shop along here. No bakers, but more Game of Thrones. Yeah, Game of Thrones, never watched it, don't know what it's about, can guess from all the stuff that we see lying about here though. Yeah, a little bit more on the Croatian War for Independence. There is an exhibition that we might go and try and find. Another map that's showing how much damage was done to this beautiful city. This absolutely cracked me up. This is Burek Heaven and all good bulls go to Burek Heaven, and apparently so do the nuns. And on that frankly hilarious, well hilarious to me anyway, note, it was time to leave the old city behind and head back up to our accommodation to see what Bex had been up to. And there's only one thing left for me to say, and that is